Hello everybody, I am here today to actually show you what my book box turned out like for Number the Stars. Before I show you, I need you to keep one thing in mind. I'm a teacher, not an art teacher. I am not an artist by any means. So if you are not very creative and artistic, don't worry about it. So we wanted to start off by making our book box has some sort of decoration on the outside, letting your readers or your audience that you're going to present yours to know what your story was about. And since I'm horrible at faces, I just did it with my two characters kind of holding hands from the back, and put in the title, Number the Stars, the author, which is Lois Lowry, and then I said that it is a story of friendship and bravery. So if we open up my book box here, there we go, this way. I have all of my items inside with little notes of what each one represents. So I will take them out and show them to you. So this first one is a shoe, and that's to represent the running that Anne Marie and Ellen were doing before they got stopped by the soldiers. And that was kind of a really big important part of the story because it showed us that these are still kids. They still want to be able to have fun with their friends, but having the German Nazi soldiers in their town now has definitely changed their way of life. So it was my first item. The next item that I have in here was my necklace. And I said that this necklace is representing the Star of David necklace that Ellen and many of the other Jews wore. And that was a big part of our book again, because if Ellen were caught wearing it or Anne Marie were caught hiding it, then they could be in very big trouble. So I had that item in here. And then going back in my box, I also have a button. And this button represents Mrs. Hirsch's closed button shop, but also the other Jewish businesses that closed during that time, because they were often afraid that the Nazi soldiers would come in and arrest them. So they had to close up their shop. So I included a button. Also in this, I have a horse. You guys might recognize it as Waternock from the Frozen movie. But this horse here represents King Christian's daily horse ride through Copenhagen. And I thought that was a really important part of the story to make sure that I shared, because that is kind of what gave the town hope. King Christian was just a king of the people, and he often rode through town not with any sort of escort or security. He just went through town kind of to see the people that were around there, and he's the one who kind of kept all of his citizens having hope through this horrible time. In here also, I have a soldier. This is Lieutenant Matthias, also from Frozen 2. But this soldier here represents the soldiers who stood on the street corners in Copenhagen that really changed the life of all of the citizens there. The soldiers kind of kept repeating throughout our whole story. First, they were on the street corners, and then they showed up at Anne Marie's apartment in the middle of the night. They showed up again during the funeral for Great Aunt Bertie, and then even again on the trail as Anne Marie tried to get the package to Uncle Henrik. So the soldiers were a really big part of the story, so I want to make sure that I included that in my box. In here also, I have just an empty box. And this empty box represents that empty casket for Great Aunt Bertie when they were pretending to have a funeral so that way they could all gather together and get ready to escape to Sweden. So I included my empty box. What else do I have in here? So this I have as my Red Riding Cloak to represent all the stories that Anne Marie would tell Kirsty to kind of keep her mind off of things. It also reminds me of the story that Anne Marie was kind of telling herself to keep herself from being scared when she was running through the woods with that basket for Uncle Henrik. I also have, let's do this one first. I also have my little bread basket here, and that's representing that lunch that Anne Marie was bringing to Uncle Henrik, which we all know wasn't actually a lunch. That was the hidden packet that Peter Nielsen had given to Mr. Rosen. And that was a big deal because that was the only way to be able to get this package there, was to hide it and disguise it in some way. And so even though Anne Marie was stopped by the soldiers and they kind of destroyed that lunch, I thought this was a pretty big part of the story. Then I have the little dog here, and you guys might recognize him as Max from The Grinch. But this dog I put in here to represent the dogs that would board the ships looking for the people that were trying to escape to Denmark. Remember that they were trained to sniff out people, the scent of people. And so these dogs made escaping to Sweden a lot more difficult for the people of Denmark and that were helping, and for the Jews that were trying to escape themselves. The dogs were a really big part of this, which leads into my next item, which is my cloth here. And I put this in here to represent the handkerchief that ultimately saved the Jews from being found. Remember that the scientists had worked really hard on trying to find some way to get those dogs to not be able to find the people hiding on the boats. And so they made a combination of rabbit blood and cocaine. The rabbit blood to first attract the dogs to the cloth, and then the cocaine there, so that way when they sniffed it, they would end up losing their sense of smell, and then they wouldn't be able to detect the people that were hidden on the boats. And then my last piece that I put in here was just a young man. And I put this in here to represent Peter Nielsen and all the other members of the resistance that risked their lives. It would have been really easy for the people of Denmark just to kind of say, okay, I'm sorry that this is happening to you, but I can't risk things. And sorry, my Jewish friends, you're kind of on your own. They didn't do that at all. There were some very brave people who chose to fight back and go against Germany and the Nazi soldiers. And so I feel like people like Peter Nielsen and the other members of the resistance like Lise were very important to this, and they would not have probably been free eventually if it wasn't for people like this that were really brave. Which, when I look back through this entire box, it really led me to these two themes. That either this story really teaches me the power of friendship, but also teaches me about bravery and how important it is to be brave, to be able to take risks for things that you really believe in. And going through and creating this book box really helped me come up with my ideas for my literary essay of what do I think the real theme or message is that this story was trying to teach me. And then I can go through and try to find evidence from my book, which I could even use some of these items to help me support in my essay, of what do I really feel was the message of this story, and what evidence do I have? What things happened in the book? What did some of the characters do or say that really taught me that friendship is important, or that it's easier to be brave when you don't know everything, or even that when you care about somebody else, you sometimes have to risk your own life to be able to save them. There's lots of themes or messages. There's not really one correct answer. As long as you can come up with a theme or a message that you think your book teaches, and you can come up with evidence to support it, then you are absolutely on the right track. So I hope that you guys all enjoyed looking through my book box. It was actually kind of really fun to make it and to be able to run around the house trying to find items that I wanted to put in there. If when you're making your book box you can't find a specific item that you want, it is totally fine and acceptable to either draw out a picture of what it would be that you're trying to find, or you can, like if I wanted to put like a clock in there to represent when Anne-Marie realized that Mama was not home and she should have been, I could have put a watch in there to represent a giant clock. It doesn't have to be exact replicas of the things that you want. The whole point of putting these items in your book box is just to be able to help you kind of go through and tell your audience what happened in your book. What were the things that really stood out to you as really important elements of your story? So I hope that you guys are having fun creating your book boxes. I know a few of you have already finished, but I'm hoping for those of you who have not yet, this gives you some good ideas to get started. So make sure that you all have created your Google Classrooms accounts, please, by Monday, because starting Monday, you guys will be getting assignments sent there. They're only going to take about 30 minutes a day. But I really do want all of you to be able to participate. So if you've not created a Google Classroom account yet, please do so. The directions are in your Gmail account. And if you need any help navigating to any of that, just let me know. All right, have a good day, you guys. Bye.